Skip the safety test on thousands of car parts? Sure, just sign here. Hello and welcome back to Karma Stories. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today we have a 15-minute payroll glitch that turns into a stack of overtime, a quota-crushing high flyer who shifts into slow-mo after one petty lecture, and we'll cap it off with a pharmacy where one power-tripping manager learns the hard way that X still means I'm not here. Our first Karma Crew exclusive episode is live right now, and it was too spicy to release publicly. Hit the join button on YouTube to enlist in the Karma Crew and unlock that story, plus early access to compilations and other future deep cuts. Let's jump right in. This story comes to us from LargeArt9229. Send out defective parts? Okay. Years ago, I was head of quality control for a major partner company that built transmission parts for a big US automaker that started with F. My job at that company consisted of daily audits and testing of parts to make sure they met specifications and functioned correctly. One of the testing procedures was a machine that would test the parts to ensure they rotated 360 degrees without catching or getting stuck, and they either passed or failed. Failed parts would get reworked, of course. For the first year, the job was great, and I took pride in it because if you're spending over 50 grand on a new car, you'd want it to work properly, right? Well, after a year, the plant manager and CEO of the partner company came up to me one day and said that we would no longer be doing the rotation test. I was surprised because, for one, any changes in procedure have to be approved by F. And second, my written work instructions at the station has to be changed out, updated, and stamped with approval, which was standard procedure anytime work instructions were updated. The work instructions would also have to be reviewed by F. They told me to not worry about it and just stop testing the parts and to just pack them up and ship them. I definitely sensed a crap storm coming because we did unfortunately have a high defect rate, and without this test process, 30% of the parts the customer received would be bad. But cue malicious compliance. First thing I did was cover my butt. I typed up an official document stating I would not be responsible for any bad or defective parts that make it past me. Then I had it signed by the CEO and plant manager, who didn't even really bother looking it over. Then I had it notarized by our company's notary. Within a month, the results were clear. We were getting many complaints about bad parts, and parts were being returned at an alarming rate. Some higher-ups from F even did a walkthrough to try and see what the issue was, and that's when they noticed that we weren't testing the parts before sending them out anymore. I was called into the conference room later that day for a meeting with the plant manager, the CEO, and the higher-ups from F. The plant manager and CEO looked furious, and I knew they were going to put the blame on me, but I was prepared. Plant manager said, "OP, the reason we called you in here is because it was brought to our attention that you aren't testing the parts before sending them out anymore. Is there a reason for this?" He said with a smug look. I said, "Yes, you said not to test them anymore and to just send them out." The CEO said, "That's not true, we never said that." I then proceeded to pull out the paper they mindlessly signed. "Here's the agreement you signed saying I'm not responsible for any bad parts getting sent out, and how we're no longer testing them." The plant manager and CEO's faces both went pale, and I then gleefully handed the paper to the higher-ups from F. I was then asked to leave the room, and on my way out, I handed my 2 weeks notice to the plant manager because I knew this company was screwed and I had another job lined up. Long story short, they lost their contract with F and got sued for $3 million. The company shut its doors, and last I heard, they filed for Chapter 3 bankruptcy. I don't know what happened to the building or anyone else that worked there, and I don't even care, but I do know F had a major part shortage for a while after this. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called C. It says, "An FU move would have been handing the F guy the paper and asking if they're hiring QA people." OP responded and said, "Their quality sucks now anyway, so I wouldn't have wanted to work for them anyway." Another commenter down below called Avid Learner said, the fact that company execs would recklessly sign off on abandoning quality control checks only to see their reckless gamble blow up in their faces, it's just stunningly irresponsible, and I can't help but wonder how many other corporations are harboring similar dangers within their ranks. OP responded and said, this has happened at pretty much every company I've worked at. Higher-ups make stupid decisions, and it always backfires. So here we have another case of an employee taking something that the higher-up said, asking them to get it in writing and even sign the paper, and they just don't realize what they're doing. A message to all the managers out there: when one of your employees comes to you with a paper and says, hey, can you sign this? It just says what you told me to do. You better think long and hard about what you told that employee to do, because there's a really good chance, like 90%, that it's going to bite you in the butt. HR swore the new time clock could ignore anything brief, so OP set out to see just how costly their little grace period could get. This story comes to us from Nogu2K. We don't pay extra time if it's under 15 minutes. Okay, I can make it work. I was a software engineer for a company, and out of nowhere, they implemented an electronic control on our work time. Before that, we would work extra on good faith. If I had to do 2 more hours one day, the next day, I could get in 2 hours later without a problem. In the new system, I had to clock in at 8 a.m. If I didn't, it would consider I was late and lose the entire first hour, and clock out at 5 p.m. with 1 hour lunch break. Work laws here in Brazil are different from ones in the US and most of the posts here. If the company tracks your work time, they have to pay you extra time on anything over 40 hours a week. Sometimes I would get in a bit earlier, like 8:50 or something, and leave at 5:10 p.m. At the end of the first month, I was surprised my extra hours were 0. On the previous system, I wouldn't care, but they were the ones that decided to track this. I decided to do some digging on how the tracking software worked and found out that anything less than 15 minutes per check-in was completely ignored. 99% sure that was against the law, but I could work with that. From that day on, guess who arrived 16 minutes earlier every day? Came back from lunch 16 minutes earlier if I was done and had nothing else to do, and left 16 minutes later. At the end of the second month, management called me in to explain why I had over 3 times more extra hours than most of the other workers. I just told them to check their system. I'm not the one keeping track of that anymore. To my surprise, they actually did pay everything that was owed. I could sue and easily win, and did not change how the system worked. I kept doing that for another 3 months before changing jobs to a remote one. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called Corinnan38. It says, inflexible systems are made to be broken. Nice to hear that the employer actually paid you afterwards. Another commenter down below called Zintin said, when a system is broken, you must show them that it is broken and let it fail. OP mentioned in this one that in the new system they had to clock in at 8 a.m. and if they didn't, it would consider they were late and they would lose the entire first hour. That's absolutely wonderful. So that means you don't need to clock in until 8:59, right? I mean, if you're already late by a minute, you might as well just push it out the rest of that time if you're not going to get paid for it anyway. After smashing every target for 2 straight years, one top performer missed a quota by 1 and got slapped with a remedial workshop. So he decided to give management exactly what they asked for. Nothing more, nothing less. This story comes to us from ScaryExpert1929. Punishing me for underperforming for 1 day in 2 years? No problem. Hello everyone, I will try to be concise. Background: I work at a company where I handle mid to high level complaints to managers, PR, and legal. My daily requirement is 40 cases handled per day. There are some of my team colleagues that struggle with this, but I don't, and I don't feel lazy to stop at 40. So I have handled 50 to 55 basically every day for the past 2 years. There is no bonus or even recognition for this. I just did it because I felt a friendly obligation to the company. Complaints can be a 5-minute resolution, or a 2-hour Zoom call with our New York lawyers. It's a gamble, really. The event. Recently, I had a day where I felt a bit sick, and at the same time, had bad luck getting only very hard cases that required more time. So I had 39 cases, one under the requirement. I thought nothing of it, as my weekly average was way off the charts, 50 plus as usual. The very next day, I felt better and went back to my usual high numbers. Come Monday, I had an emergency one-on-one with my manager where I was informed that I had to attend a 3-day workshop seminar on how to best meet requirements because I underperformed last week. My jaw dropped and I asked, don't they count the weekly, monthly, and yearly numbers? To which I was told that the daily requirement is 40, and this is standard practice. Nothing we can do. Basically, it was a workshop for underperformers who had 20 to 30 out of 40 cases daily. It was nothing hard, but I did need to drive there for 3 days after work and listen to HR guys giving bad advice, as they never actually handle the cases in real life. And I had to talk about what I will do to improve my numbers and reach the 40, as the nonsense HR talk calls it. This made me lose hours and hours of my free time, and I was livid. After it was over, I had a long think, and I decided that I will do exactly that. I will reach the 40, and that's it. The aftermath. For the past few months, I go into work, I handle 40 cases, my daily requirement, and then I do nothing for the rest of my shift. I have had multiple one-on-ones with my manager during this time, and I am constantly asked, is something wrong? To which I naively reply, no. Am I in trouble? Am I underperforming? And then of course they say that I am 100% within daily requirements, and that way I shut the conversation down. This is real life, so I can't say a clever comeback or something like that, but I do keep playing the fool that has no idea what is wrong now. But I find satisfaction in knowing that they got used to my overachieving and are now suffering for the lack of it. Before Easter, they put up an internal ad for promoting another 2 managers, so my guess is now that is the number of people they will need to pay extra just because they lost me as an overachiever. And they lost me for no reason other than their own stupidity. Thank you all. I hope I did not bore you. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called C Granny. It says, I would have asked the HR person giving the talk so many questions about the hard cases you get, and what to do when the company's lawyers have you on the phone for hours. Do you just hang up on them after 10 minutes? Another commenter called Medic Jambi said, OP, it may be worth saying that the recent HR training demonstrates how important it was to make exactly 40 cases each day, and that now you strive to achieve those exact numbers, because those were the numbers they made sure to point out were important. Keep stressing how they pointed out how important 40 was. This story kinda hits me on a personal level because it reminds me of the last call center that I worked in. My team lead had realized that I wasn't really pushing extra sales on my tech support calls. Like I was supporting internet and they wanted me to push phone sales to everybody who I was talking to. So they put the quality person with me many times to get me to try and sell. It kind of worked out in my favor though, because me and that quality person have now been married for 14 years. A power-tripping assistant manager tried to commandeer the only pharmacist not on her shift, until a single X on the schedule taught her an unforgettable, sleep-deprived lesson. This story comes to us from Prestigious Promise 20. She thought I was working that day. I was, just not at that store. In the early years of being a pharmacist, jobs in my city were hard to come by. I managed to get full-time hours by working for a couple of pharmacist friends at both of their stores. They would work out my schedule together and put an X on my schedule on the days I was at the opposing store. One store was downtown and one was in the suburb I lived in. At the suburb pharmacy, I had a coworker, D, who would just not wrap her brain around the fact that if there was an X by my name, I was in fact working, just at the other store. Multiple times, I would have call after call on my cell phone and hang-ups on my answering machine at home because she wanted me to cover her shift at the suburb store when I was already working downtown. Worst thing was, my cell phone charged me for every single call, so after the second time of her pulling this, I would get downtown and immediately pull the battery out of my phone. This made her angry at me for ignoring her, and we had a tepid relationship after that. Time went on, and the suburb store started expanding their nursing home operation, so I was able to work there full-time instead. I still had a great relationship with the downtown store, and they had me keep the keys in case of emergencies. They would occasionally come up, and the X would be on the schedule by my name. Sadly, Dee became the assistant manager and now thought she was the boss of me. Now, downtown pharmacist's daughter was getting married and suburb pharmacist was invited to all the festivities. I got scheduled to work the Thursday before at the downtown store. The X went by my name on the suburb schedule. I was also going to the wedding. I was good friends with the daughter, but missing the Mendy party on the Thursday I was working for her mom. I was on the phone with her on my break one time, and she was saying how sorry she was that I was missing it. And I said, don't worry, I'll just doodle brown Sharpie all over my hands and pretend I was there when we aren't busy. Now, at that exact week, we were getting new pharmacy software downloaded. Nursing homes are run on a batch system where all the labels are run about 5 days before, and then all the bubble packs are made up during that time. And then the actual billing is done on the Thursday for the meds to be delivered Friday. Dee decided that she did not want the batch to be done and just wanted everything to be processed and made up on the Thursday for just this first week. My technician was freaking out, so I just told her to make up the usual drug cards, Lipitor, Aspirin 81, multivitamin, Altace, etc., without any patient data, just to help speed things along. Dee overheard and told the tech that she wasn't allowed to do that, and this younger generation is just scared of hard work. I panicked a bit because I was the only one of my age, Gen X, as all my coworkers were boomer-aged and older. I went and checked the schedule. Yep, there's an X by my name. I won't be there for the crap show, but somehow Dee thinks I am. Why should I tell her any different? Thursday rolls around and at 12:30, my cell phone starts blowing up. It's in my purse in the safe because I don't get a lunch break, only pharmacist, and everyone can hear it. Out comes the battery. I get home after work and they're screaming and swearing on my answering machine. A locum pharmacist worked the morning shift and wasn't instructed to do anything, so everything was left for Dee when she arrived at 12:30. She had to work late to finish over 500 prescription drug cards. I come in the next day and she's still furious. You said you were working. I heard you talking about the effing Mendy thing. I told her I was working, just not at that store as evidenced by the X by my name. I learned then that she could eavesdrop on the break room from one place in the pharmacy when she herself was the only pharmacist working at the time. All my breaks were taken in my car after this. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called CoderJoe1. It says, she fell into the trap of being too stupid to realize it. Another commenter down below called Maddie Gator said, I guess she overdosed on her own power. Though I can't believe Dee was still assistant manager after that. You'd think that intentionally risking not being able to get medication out on time would be a huge violation of policy. Opie responded and said, it was pretty much to placate her. I think she got 50 cents more an hour for way more responsibility, but I was the same age as her kids, so that didn't help. OP could have taken this one a lot further. It's a good thing this wasn't in pro-revenge or nuclear revenge, because this person would have been fired for sure. They left voicemails with screaming and cussing on OP's machine. That alone would be more than enough reason for termination. OP, it doesn't matter if you were the same age as her kids, you deserve respect. You are a pharmacist as well. You did the schooling. You have the job. You are a colleague, not one of her kids. Alright, that's today's serving of sweet, sweet karma. I really do hope it hit the spot. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to smash that subscribe button so tomorrow's episode rolls straight into your feed. If you're rocking earbuds on the podcast side, tap follow, or whatever your app calls it so we can keep you company on your next commute. Feeling extra spicy? Join the Karma Crew. You'll snag early bird compilations, exclusive episodes, and a shiny loyalty badge that lets everyone know you're part of the inner circle. YouTube folks, the join button is right below. Podcast listeners, there's a link waiting in the show notes. I thank you for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.